What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Walkout Network. It's your man, Ant Walker, here with another edition of Unleash, the weekly panel discussion show. Before we introduce this week's panel, remember to like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend, tell that friend to tell 10 more friends. And today we're sponsored by These Nuts. So let's go ahead and introduce our guest today. He is an MMA reporter at the New York Post, one of my favorite Twitter followers, and one of my favorite guys to follow as well. He is Scott Fontana. Sorry, good to see you, man. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm happy to be on your show. I've enjoyed interacting with you, through Twitter. But now this is finally the chance we get some face-to-face time. So it's great, and did see you guys as well.
You definitely, man. So this is something we've looked forward to for a while. So we're gonna have a good time today. Of course,
his shirt, by the way, is on point. I'm just.
Thank you.
You two
like the turtles.
You got a similar vibe going on. I'm feeling it.
Yeah,
And
I'll bring it a little closer so you can see it.
Oh man, that's way better than I thought it was.
Oh wow. I wish I could put like a gold star in the corner right there. We gotta work on that for OBS or something like that. All right, so let's go ahead and introduce the other two gentlemen who really don't need an introduction, but we love them so much we're gonna do it anyway. First up is the jack of all trades who has mastered them all. He is the senior editor of Sherdog.com. My man Ben Duffy. Ben, what's up?
Hey, I'm doing really well. It's been a crazy week in the Duffy house. I got a new workstation here, so Jason Burgos doesn't have to bother me anymore about my side camera angle. I'm looking dead on at you. The powers that be at Twitter decided that I am notable, active, and authentic, and gave me the little blue check mark.
Ooh,
I mean, that's a career-defining moment because Danny Brown followed me back.
Oh, nice.
So
okay.
Yeah, I'm on cloud 9, even though I'm up in the middle of the fucking night for me. It's great.
Absolutely beautiful. Maybe I should publish some writing again, and maybe I can get my blue check as well. I missed my heyday. And actually, I got suspended for saying something disparaging about a reporter, but fuck that guy. So let's introduce the man with the facts, the stats, the figures, and the numbers. He is the associate editor of Sherdog.com, and my good friend Jay Petrie. Jay, what's up, my man?
I am really digging the energy we got going today. I'm kind of high on this too. I too have that little checkbox next to my name, which totally means that I have the fewest followers of any Twitter verified person that exists in the world. But I'm down with that. So in terms of low numbers, we have another low number for the stat of the week because the stat of the week is 1. 1 is all we have. 1 is the loneliest number in this situation. Because if you guys remember at UFC 257, that whole Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor thing when he dropped him and knocked out Conor McGregor. So Dustin Poirier is the first man to ever knock Conor McGregor down as a pro in his entire career. I did the tape study all the way back to the very beginning. Now, in the other hand, Conor has dropped 9 of the 11 guys he fought in the UFC, including, of course, Poirier. So whether we get a repeat performance or not, Dustin Poirier already had achieved history going into this rubber match.
Oh, so you're saying that Dustin's the first to knock down McGregor?
Yep.
So and
knock him out too, but
knock him out. Okay.
But in terms, it's more impressive, I think, that nobody had ever even dropped him. But because officially Khabib didn't knock him down, and officially the whole thing.
Okay.
I think Khabib dropped him first, but in terms of official UFC and whatever numbers.
I see. Yeah, because I guess it's a technicality because of the way he
his hand
contact and touch the mat first and blah blah blah. All right, cool, good stat right there as always, Jay. So we're going to start with our new segment, Shallow Cuts, and this is where each of us will have a minute to opine about a particular topic, but we're going to mix things up just a tad bit here. I'm going to hand the keys over to Mr. Ben Duffy to assign what questions each of us ask. So Ben, if you've got your outline pulled up, I suggest you assign away. What are we going to talk about, sir? Who is going to have what topic this week?
All right. Well, I am further going to delegate the authority because I'm going to let our guest, Scott Fontana, choose which of the 4 he would like to take, and then I'll assign the other 3.
So courteous. Look at that.
It's very generous. It just makes me feel very warm and fuzzy inside. So thank you. I'm going to take for myself. I'll take Joe Schilling.
Oh.
Okay. Not literally, because clearly none of us want that.
I won't even attempt to do that. I won't even look at the man.
Hisaki Kato goes, I challenge.
All right, Scott. So I've got the clock queued up. You will have 1 minute to answer the following question. What do you make of kickboxer and ex-Bellator fighter Joe Schilling knocking out a guy in a bar?
I don't understand why you can't just contain yourself in just the slightest way. In this video, I don't know what he said or did, the guy who he hit to do this, but I mean, it couldn't possibly have been something that a professional fighter who is trained and knows how dangerous he is says, I'm going to hit this drunk guy at a bar who you don't know what's going to happen to this guy. What if he has a brain aneurysm or something like that? He goes down, he dies. Where are you left? I mean, realistically, you don't need to do that. You can walk away. Boss Rune said he'd walk away, realistically speaking. He also said he doesn't feel too bad hearing some of the things that are, hearsay, conjecture about what this guy who he hit does to other women, whatever. This is all hearsay. It's all conjecture. But come on, just control your weapons. Don't throw them. Walk away.
Very, very finely said. With just a few seconds to spare, we're going to let the buzzer sound because I felt like it. All right.
It was his best performance since he fought Melvin Manhoef. I'm just saying.
Hey, I mean, Boz Rutan being the voice of reason in a street fight. Who you are definitely on the wrong side there.
Yeah.
Boz Rutan, the famous quote, "Badanga dang." Now,
Dang, bam.
Ben,
Bam, lever kick.
let me know now
Punch.
who's up next and what question shall they be answering.
Jay, Rob Font, UFC bantamweight contender, was cleared of wrongdoing after a failed drug test determined that it was actually contaminants in his shampoo, skin lotion, and sunscreen. How do you feel that situation was handled?
Well, I covered this story when it broke for Sure Dog, and I had to take a minute. I had to realize what exactly was happening. Now, first of all, I would like to say this was actually handled well because it didn't go public that he failed a test. And then there was the stigma about Rob Font ahead of time, because a lot of times the court of public opinion will weigh down on you and suddenly you're a cheater before all the facts are out. So I appreciate that USADA came and held this and conducted an investigation, but there were a lot of question marks. Like, I don't believe I have all my grocery store receipts. So you're saying that Tyson Chartier holds on to all of his information to determine that Rob Font's team bought him sunscreen and hand lotion that had this content? I'm glad he was cleared, but there's still questions. And I guess the best thing is that Rob Font's career wasn't derailed because of this. But there's still questions, and I don't think we're ever going to know.
All right. Finally done. Exactly a minute there, Jay. Ben, what's up next?
Ant Walker, are you glad that Nate Marquardt is coming out of his 2017 retirement to fight again, probably in Titan FC?
No. I mean, I think we all can respect Nate Marquardt for what a career he had. Strikeforce welterweight champion, a top contender in both the welterweight and middleweight divisions in the UFC for two different stints. I mean, this guy was certainly a top flight mixed martial artist. However, he didn't exactly have the most celebrated end to his career with 3 back-to-back losses. And up until that point, I mean, he also was trading wins and losses for several years beforehand. I particularly remember the Kelvin Gastelum one being very, very bad, like stopped on the stool. It's just not a good look. Like, I don't think that several years away from the sport and several more years added to your age are going to do you any good. But I will say at least he's starting at a lower level and he's not jumping in there against the best of the best, like Matt Wyman coming back against Luis Pena.
He did win a major championship in his welterweight debut, though. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
When he scored Woodley, that was the first time he ever fought at 170.
Yeah, and that was one of the more enduring knockouts as far as highlight reels are concerned over the last 10 years. Like that was an amazing knockout.
Well, that was like his last
Strikeforce.
Yeah,
yep.
That was like his last. I mean, okay, yeah, he knocked out CB Dalloway. He smoked Thunder Horse, Tampa McCrory, but yeah, I think that was the
the pinnacle of his career. Like,
that was 9 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Like this, not cool. Not cool. So Ben, looks like you are left to answer one question, and that question will be, what happened to my clock? There we go. Is Paul Craig the right guy for Alex Gustafsson to make his return to 205?
I suppose so, but I'm going to approach this question from the other side. I think Gustafsson is the appropriate next fight for Paul Craig. As much as I've kind of made fun of the guy and his game over the last year or two, he's on a good winning streak over just kind of increasingly prominent fighters. He deserves an Alex Gustafsson at this point. There are questions hanging over Gustafsson, who looked a not great 240 in his heavyweight debut. How's he going to look, dropping back down to 205? Always been a titanic 205er. There are questions about him, and Paul Craig has earned a fight like this. I mean, the dude is legitimately about to move into the top 10 with like one weapon. How? I don't know. You can let the rest of it run out. I got nothing more on that.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, we got 10 more seconds, so we just fill it up with air, space, and opportunity.
And think that I chose that one for myself, apparently only having 45 seconds of material. That's why I don't run this show.
You should have got a little more wordy. That would have helped. Yeah. So
I just kind of kept beating the same beats in my answer, so I figured that just milked the clock.
I mean,
exactly.
My head just wrote 1,400 words on it, and now has to crush it down to 1,200. So yeah.
Oh man, the editor even in speech. So fellas, let's move things along here. We're going to jump right into perhaps the greatest title segment in all of media history, and that is I'm Not Surprised, Mr. Falcons. This is where we share something that surprised us or ironically did not over the last week. Let's begin with our guest, Scott. Scott, tell me, what is your I'm Not Surprised, Mr. Falcons moment this week?
For me, it was George St. Pierre talking about his contract and the fact that he's only got about 2 years left on it before he can kind of seemingly do whatever he wants in combat sports. He's obviously, we've heard about the potential fight that he could have had with Oscar De La Hoya, and that didn't come through because UFC said no. I get why they wouldn't say yes in that particular instance, because especially if it's Oscar, it's not the right it's not the right compatibility for them to give that agreement. But now we're starting to see, okay, there's a little bit of a clock here. We can start looking forward to potential opportunities for George St. Pierre to take some of these exhibitions, which we're now seeing fighters get much later in life, and people are very interested in seeing them. I'd be interested to see what George St. Pierre could do with whatever he wanted to do in a few years. It doesn't change his legacy, so it'd just be fascinating to see what else he could do.
So he's left the legacy era, and it's now time for money fight era.
Yes, absolutely.
Celebrity boxing with Chris Evans in costume.
That would be perfect.
Okay,
all right. Versus Cap, right?
I'm
there.
done. I'm in. I am all the way in.
Let a guy like him make his money. If anybody was ever worth the money through his career, it was George St. Pierre, because he was the best.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're talking about a guy who's consistently been a great ambassador for the sport at a time where the UFC and mixed martial arts was not in the mainstream, where it was certainly, in its own little dark corner. And he was the guy showing up in suits, bringing blue chip sponsorships and attention to mixed martial arts. So yeah, let the man cash out. He can't, like Batrog the Leaper is not that big of a character in the MCU. So it'd be nice for him to have some other checks.
Get him a bag. Get him 2 bags.
Yeah, why not? Why not? The man deserves it. All right, Ben.
Hold on. Actually, time out. One question. Would you rather it be GSP against De La Hoya or Vitor Belfort against De La Hoya? Which would you have rather seen?
Oh, it's GSP.
Vitor.
Well, you rather see?
It's a tougher question than
are we talking about both competitors drugged up out of their minds?
Oh,
if so, then yes, it's Vitor.
I said Vitor.
Yeah.
I said Vitor.
Oh.
I want like just 2013 like TRT tour looking like he ate Aungla, Yeah, I want this dude like just ripping out of his own skin with roid muscles fighting Oscar De La Hoya.
Yeah, like we need Vitor Belfort, like he's snatching the kangaroo burgers right out of Frank Mir's plate. Like that's what we need. Now, if we're talking about a legitimate boxing match where it's like an actual showcase of skill, then of course GSP is the option. I mean, the guy's been a Freddie Roach student for years now. He has perhaps the best jab in MMA history. So yeah, granted, Oscar De La Hoya is only one of the greatest boxers of our generation, but that at least sounds fun, and he's probably still going to be coked up regardless. So
and a little bit closer in weight than TRT Tour.
Yeah, just a little,
a couple pounds,
just a tad bit. Yeah. All right, fellas. So Ben, you're up next. Tell me what your I'm not surprised, Mr. Falcons moment is this week.
Well, a couple days ago, over the long weekend for us United States people, Khabib Nurmagomedov commemorated, won't say celebrated, obviously, the passing of his father Abdulmanap, which happened last July. It was interesting to be reminded just of what an important figure Abdulmanap was to CIS MMA, just outside of being Khabib's father. He was a conduit through which almost all of the prominent Dagestani fighters, passed through at least at some point in their training and on their way up. An enormously formative figure for basically MMA's like new hotspot. But that happened in July. Nurmagomedov fought his already scheduled and contracted fight in October, walked away from the sport, and not only has he not come back, he's not ever budged an inch. The closest he's come to budging an inch is eating lunch with Dana White like 3 times in a month and letting Dana like tweet about it and assure us all that he was going to get Khabib back on board. I'm not going to claim to be this brilliant guy for spotting this at the time, because plenty of other people did as well. But of all the high-level fighters ever to walk away from the sport in or near their prime, he was the one I believed more than any other. He was a guy that just didn't need the sport as much as it needed him. And I'm kind of gratified to see that he's stuck to his guns. I mean, I would be fine if he came back. We're about to have a blockbuster fight between two guys whose asses he kicked up around their ears, and that's the biggest fight in MMA this year. So obviously it would be great to have him back. But if he's doing what's best for him and his family, he does not owe us a goddamn thing. And I'm surprised, not surprised, and happy, even if a little sad for us.
Absolutely. Can't believe it's been a year already. That's amazing. Like time is going by pretty quickly, and somehow or another, it's the cause of that man's death kind of swept under the rug when it comes to how COVID actually exists, and it didn't disappear after the election, and we're packing arenas now. So there's that. Jay, please share with us your I'm not surprised, Mr. Falcons moment this week.
Well, I guess we're going from one bummer to another bummer, but this isn't related to COVID, so this is just a straight sad thing. John Dodson was in an accident with his family, a car accident this past weekend. Now, luckily, he and his family emerged without any serious injuries, which is great. Their car was totaled, of course, and whatnot, and he had to pull out of his fight. This would have been his first fight since leaving the UFC. Let me think. It was back, I think it was less than a year ago is when he was let go, which by itself is strange because he fought, he knocked out Nathaniel Wood, and the UFC signed him to a 5-fight deal. And then he lost to Dvalishvili, and the UFC said, later, skater. So that's an odd situation that he had 4 fights left, and he was on a 1-fight losing streak, and the UFC dumped him. A guy that never been finished, a guy that he made Ben Duffy's all-time scream at the TV list because of the pure potential and the ability to get it done, but he just wouldn't pull the trigger sometimes and would lose a horrible split decision to John Lineker, to Marlon Moraes, and it would just kind of be a bummer. But this is a tough winner. This is a 2-time title challenger. This is a guy who has a handful of post-fight bonuses, and he had to put together, or he or his family or his coaching team had to put a GoFundMe together, which breaks my heart that a 17-fight UFC vet just leaving the promotion doesn't have enough money set aside to buy his own car or for his family. It just and whatever else that is needed to get this. It struck me in the, oh my God, we don't have a UFC fighter plan. Like, okay, I understand that he's a free agent and therefore is not a employee, or he's a released from his contract. and is a free agent and went over to fight with, what is it, XMMA, I think, that the organization disappeared and then came back suddenly and had some names on, like Andre Sukumtat. And so the UFC doesn't owe him anything because he's technically fighting for another promotion. But there's, my God, 17 UFC fights, multiple title fights, and it just, this sport doesn't pay enough, boys. And I guess I'll end this by circling back to something we talked about last week. Ant and I talked about how we're against the idea of an interim title fight for Ciryl Gane and Derek Lewis. And the counter argument, of course, is, well, they'll be paid more. The both Gane and Lewis will be paid championship level fees, but that is a not good argument, because by them taking this fight, it's actually bringing the pay of everybody else down. Because somebody else is willing to take a lesser offer, a lower bid. Derek Lewis is very famous for saying, yeah, whatever, I don't care. Where if in theory, for instance, a guy who asked for more money and the UFC balked and Lewis took a lower sum, this negotiation is actually driving the price that UFC is willing to offer lower. So it's actually worse off. And to tie it back to the Dodson situation, that they must have been paying him peanuts, because that's a lot of fights, a lot of time, a lot of win bonuses, and a 6-figure UFC contract. I can't blame it all on money management. Fighters need to be paid more.
Absolutely. Yeah, that whole the whole fighter pay discussion, it just seems to, people just don't seem to understand the concept. Like, this isn't about, having the interim title to pay you more money this one time. Like, this is a much larger issue than that. And what about everyone who isn't fighting for a belt? So John Dodson, a guy, a former title challenger, 2-time title challenger, tough champion as well, or tough winner, I should say. Yeah, this is a guy who shouldn't have to have a GoFundMe this soon after his UFC tenure has ended. So definitely want to send our best wishes to Dodson and his family. Yeah, definitely glad they're okay. And if you want to donate to the GoFundMe, we can put a link in the description as well. So I'm not surprised, Mr. Falcons moment. It comes courtesy of Bellator and Fedor Emelianenko. So this was a couple of Fridays ago that Bellator had some sort of teleconference to announce that Fedor was coming back October 23rd in Russia. So they've been working on, every organization's been wanting to have Fedor fight in Russia. That's been kind of like the holy grail for the American-based promotions that have courted him. And Bellator, it seems to have pulled it off. However, there is no opponent set as of yet. That means the Fedor sweepstakes have opened up. In the past week, we've had Jake Hager making a big public campaign for this, former, or I think he's still a pro wrestler, right? He's still a pro wrestler. But yeah, Jake Hager, who's had like 3 fights against people with like -6 fights. He wants to fight Fedor. Fabricio Verdum, who recently left the UFC for PFL, he's trying to get in on this. We've got names like Alistair Overeem floating around as well, a fight that was supposed to happen in Strikeforce but did not. So there are a lot of options on the table.
Anderson Silva.
That's the one I want. That's the one I want. Give me Anderson Silva. No, please. We need more people asking for this one. This is the fight I want. But the Fedor sweepstakes have opened up, and don't be surprised when your favorite heavyweight or heavyweight adjacent fighter of yesteryear is calling out for a big fight in Russia. So I am not surprised at all, Mr. Falcons.
For the record, I want Overeem to want that fight. I actually want to see that fight.
Yeah, JDS, another good candidate as well. So there are definitely plenty of good options. Imagine, here's one that we haven't thought about really. Cain Velasquez.
Oh.
If he can stay healthy for,
we can scrub that one then.
Forget that. Forget that. If he can put enough duct tape around his knee, maybe Cain Velasquez. Definitely some good options out there. But I would prefer that this fight take place in Japan, in Ryzen. Granted, I'm sure the drug testing protocols in Russia are lax, to say the least. So Russia's good enough.
Well, it should be noted that there are 2 fights left for Fedor. The next fight for him is in Russia, and the last fight is in TBA, which I think they're looking at Japan. That's the last I was.
All the roids. All the roids.
I'm just saying, Josh Barnett, Fedor in Japan. How could you go wrong with that?
Yeah, I want whoever Fedor fights, I want them to have massive traps. That's all I want.
If he does fight Barnett, I want Tom Atencio to be there. He deserves it.
If they put Tom Atencio there, it's gonna have to be like some Clockwork Orange shit where they're just using like forks to keep his eyelids open.
Maybe Stephan Bonner and Justin McCulley come up with the mask again. I don't know.
With the beekeeper shit.
Yeah,
the double mask. What if it's Tito? What if it's Tito?
Tito actually wouldn't be bad. Like, can you imagine the build up to that? How stupid that would be!
Oh my god,
that would be so delightfully done.
Tito's not under contract. He left his office.
He wants to call out other aging vets. So that actually, I'm okay with that. I'm really okay with that. Like, I just want to see that press conference. Like what? Like, and he's going to go super pro America. Like he's going to think that this is Rocky 3. Like that's or Rocky 4. Right? He's going to think this is Rocky 4. Oh, I'm here for that.
More word salad than our children could eat in 50 lifetimes would be served by one Jacob Ortiz Jr.
If Fedor can say he'll beat Tito into a living death in Russian, I am so here for it.
See Fedor kick a chair at him. Like,
yes, done. Sold.
No, I want to see. I want to have Fedor's translator make sure that he communicates some sort of Jenna Jameson joke, and then we're all good. Like this is just gold right here, and we need this. So please, Tito's got to be one of the guys now. I've talked myself into it. All right. So fellas, the UFC is really the only game in town this weekend. UFC 264 is coming up. Of course, Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier in the trilogy match, the biggest fight of the year so far. Now, were the other promotions out there doing the right thing by taking this weekend off? Scott, I'll begin with you.
Absolutely. I mean, you're not going to compete with this. Yeah, you can. I imagine that some promotions that are kind of very tertiary, like, or maybe not directly competing, I guess, with the UFC for eyeballs, like a Ryzen, something like that. That's obviously not going to be out at the same time. Sure. But other than that, I mean, PFL already scheduling wise was not going to put on an event here. Bellator, I think they're smart to take a little bit of a break, and especially soon they'll be going on the road. They're finally leaving Mohegan Sun after a while. I think it's good for them to recharge as well. And then really what's left? One? Seriously?
I mean, they could just show something that they taped 6 months ago. So
well, maybe they've got something lying around.
One was actually
reruns.
One was supposed to.
For us.
They were supposed to run an event on July 9th, but it disappeared. That was
somebody deleted it. That's what happened. The file got corrupted. So that's what happened there. One thing I wouldn't mind seeing, and this obviously wouldn't be in direct competition, but having promotions piggyback off of this. Invicta was very good at this in some of their earlier days, to have a fight going on in the same city the night before.
Yes.
And that would be something I think that would work very well. Have like a submission grappling tournament or something like that the night before would be a great way, especially considering that this is going to be full capacity crowd in Las Vegas. You can, if you need those ticket sales, if you're not afraid of the Delta variant, you can go ahead and pack some smaller arena in Vegas with people who are already going to be fight fans there to see something. And if they got a few extra dollars, they'll come check out your event. Probably could even get a lot of fighters, a lot of A-list fighters who will be in town to watch, to join your audience and give you a little publicity boost as well. So I think that would have been a good route to take. But I understand, considering the practicality of being so new to packing a venue at the moment. What
I find really interesting is that this event isn't even being counter-programmed by regional promotions. Like it's any given time, there'll just be an event running, period, the end. But this Saturday, there are only 8 fight cards running in the US other than UFC 264. So even other organizations are like, okay, we know we're not going to get people to show up. So we're not going to do that, which is surprising because we could have, dozens at any given time and from Nashville or Atlanta or whatever. Icon Fighting Federation, the organization that Frank Mir's daughter is part of, and they're on Fight Pass. They are the ones who are doing the Vegas day before thing. It's really strange how of all the orgs that could do that, it would be IFF, because like there's so many other leagues that could do it. Like I didn't know this until recently. LFA, LFA, they're headquartered in Las Vegas. They're not from Texas, like we were under the impression of. So, and yet they have never held an event in Las Vegas. Why wouldn't they come home, so to speak? There's a missed opportunity in two regards. There's the weekend of fights that you mentioned, the day before, get people in the building. People are already here for the weekend. They're spending some time in Vegas having fun because this is a Conor McGregor fight weekend. People make an event out of it. So they'll be going to fights, getting jazzed up. So that would behoove an organization, or the day of, like a KSW even. Some sort of league that could run at about 1 p.m., 2 p.m. Eastern time, so that way it's done by the time the UFC prelims start, and you get the people who are kind of ready and they're already like, oh man, I can't wait for fights. Oh crap, I have to wait till 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, depending on when they check in, to have something else to chew on when there's nobody else in town. Like you have to go to like Coliseum FC or National Fighting Championship in Georgia, or I don't know. Nobody else is doing anything. Knuckled up promotions. It's not a big fight weekend. All the eyes are on the UFC, which is surprising to me.
Selfishly, I'm actually very happy about this because I think I've said this before on social media anyway, the fact that I think that we bunch too many fight cards, especially like notable fight cards, up together. And I remember you guys all remember the days when we used to have Wednesday fight cards and things like that. I wish there was more of that. And we don't have that anymore. And with like even, obviously there are some promotions that will probably do it on that day of the week, but why can't Bellator or PFL? PFL should move to Wednesday. They should move to Wednesday.
Yeah, or fight night cards move to Wednesdays.
Yes,
like they used to be on Spike.
absolutely.
Like, they're definitely alternatives to the Saturdays that are just completely loaded from top to bottom. I mean, it's very taxing, but I think that's more so a perspective of us within the bubble. Because we've all been there, like you're live tweeting every single fight. And Jay, I know you know this better than anyone because you're the top play-by-play guy at Sherdog, and that is a serious undertaking to watch fights all day long. And then when you're talking about Bellator post limbs and everything else, I mean, we're getting absolutely ridiculous at this point. But one thing that I think we're not giving enough credit to is the fact that most people involved with the sport of mixed martial arts are fans before anything else. I mean, I think that's responsible for our professional involvement as far as media is concerned, because we're fans of fights. So we found our way and weaseled our way into these positions.
Lord, it ain't the paycheck.
It's definitely not the paycheck. But I imagine that the guys who are running, Joe's Barnyard Fight League probably are big fans and they just want to watch this as well. So when you have these tentpole fight weekends, it's cool to not be there and not to be worried about your work necessarily and just enjoy it as a fan. So I can imagine there are plenty of promoters who just like, hey, this weekend I'm taking off because I'm just going to enjoy myself with a beer and I'm not going to be worried about with all the knuckleheads on my roster are up to and keeping this fight card together that is only going to net me a few dollars anyway. So I think that's a big reason why we have so little action going on this Saturday outside of the UFC.
Well said.
Well, thank you. Look, Scott earning his spot back. You know what? One of y'all, Jay and Ben, y'all don't compliment me enough. One of y'all gonna go next week. Scott's taking your place. All right. So now I was so caught up in the praise for myself, I forgot where I was in the outline, but I found it. So now we're gonna move on a bit to the Who You Got segment. So there are some fights that are worth breaking down very briefly here. Greg Hardy, Tai Tuivasa. I mean, the push to force Greg Hardy down our throats continues. He is scheduled. Whoa, pause. he is scheduled against Tai Tuivasa this weekend. And do you think the heavyweight division gets a new top 15 member out of the winner from this one?
Get the fuck all the way out of here with that. As Jay would say, put that question in the outside trash. Okay, I mean, obviously my feelings on Greg Hardy's place in the sport are well documented, but each of these guys would be the best career win for the other. So in one sense, that it is pretty sensible matchmaking. One guy's going to take a step up here and beat somebody who's not a, Harry Hunsucker or, Dmitry Smolyakov type fighter. Like, one guy's going to take a step up, but I'm still not going to put him in the top 15. I'm looking at Sherdog's top 15 just because it is a worldwide top 15. It's not the UFC's. And Marcin Tybura is like in that 11 to 15 bubble. Like, Greg Hardy isn't going to pass him by beating Tai Tuivasa or vice versa. So, no, I don't think the winner here is a top 15 fighter.
I would say the worldwide rankings, it makes no sense to consider this any sort of ranking potential fight here. But you look over at the UFC rankings, which I used to be a part of this panel, and I'm glad I'm not a part of it anymore. We'll leave it at that. But you look there and you look at number 15, and number 15 is Sergey Pavlovich. Sergey Pavlovich has no fights coming up. The last time he fought was October 2019. I can't necessarily sit here and say that the winner of Tuivasa and Hardy doesn't deserve to pass this inactive fighter. I'm not saying that's what I would want to happen. I am not a Greg Hardy. I'm very much with Ben here. I'm a Carolina Panthers football fan, and he was on my team for quite a while. I loved him when we called him the Kraken, and then I found out about all the stuff. So I'm off the Greg Hardy train completely. But because the UFC rankings are so silly, it kind of almost makes sense that this could be a potential for the number 15 in the heavyweight contenders.
I'll add to that by saying this is absolutely taking the 15th spot. The winner of this, period, at the end. I would not be surprised if Tai Tuivasa knocks out Greg Hardy like I believe he will do. He will pass Sergey Spivak, a guy who put him to sleep recently with a choke, because the UFC rankings are very consistent in how they handle things. It just, you can smell that. Okay. This matchup was once billed as the co-main event. Seriously, that's I'm not making that up. That wasn't an error. The UFC initially planned this co-main event of unranked Tai Tuivasa and unranked Greg Hardy to be above Gilbert Burns and Stephen Thompson. This was an actual thing the UFC had. And then they realized all the backlash and went, oh my God, maybe we'll pump the brakes on this one and just put it as a fun walrus slap fight, which is all that we can. That's the best we can hope for. The absolute best we can hope for is they just run towards each other and then one falls down.
And Hardy falls down. That's the best.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
That's the best for people that don't want Hardy to win. The UFC wants Hardy to win. I mean, they gave him Alexander Volkov as a best possible option to kind of snake up the rankings. And then Volkov showed him there's levels to this thing, kid. Get out of here. This is just going to be messy. And I think that's what the UFC seems to be wanting on their fight cards. This is a pattern that we've noticed emerging, that there will be an unranked heavyweight fight slotted way up there. I mean, I believe Yana Kunitskaya and Irene Aldana are ranked pretty high. Let me think. Irene Aldana is in the top 5. And yet, this unranked nonsense heavyweight fight is slotted above them. Why? Because walrus slap fight potential. That's it. It's carnage. It's mayhem. Yes, we know how Aldana Kunitskaya may play out. You can easily see a wall install, and it might not be thrilling. So the UFC is hoping to get fans in the T-Mobile Arena, which, by the way, the building's packed, will have that potential for silliness and nonsense. And to circle back to the who you got, which I'm very curious, your guys' opinions, I'm sure I could probably guess them, that Tai Tuivasa is going to probably go like, remember Dan Henderson had that low kick overhand right thing? Watch for that. That's all I'm saying for Tuivasa.
All right. So so Jay, looks like you've got your pick in right there for Tai Tuivasa. Ben, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Oh,
Who you
hold
got?
on.
Oh, whoop.
By the way, this fight has potential for a weight miss, so watch out for it. Like
That would be glorious.
this will be one of the heaviest fights the UFC's ever put on. This will probably be 266 versus 266.
I mean, I you know what? We can use another super heavyweight fight in the UFC. So let's go ahead. Catch weight, super heavyweight catch weight. Let's do it. Ben, who you got?
I seriously have no idea. Like, I've got to do a radio preview in like 36 hours, and I still have no fucking idea who's going to win this. Hardy is what he is at this point. I mean, his strengths are what they are. His flaws apparently are what they are, and he's not a prospect anymore. I mean, he's got more fights than Cyril Gane. He just is what he is. I don't trust Tai Tuivasa. I remember very well doing a radio show with Blaine from Fight Library, and we had the serious question, and this was after I think the Ivanov fight. Does Tai Tuivasa train? Just like full stop. That was the question. I have no faith, in what version of him will show up. I agree with Jay that he could do just the low kick to overhand right thing and just, sleep the Prince of War. But he could also just get the living shit beat out of him. I mean, he's got a hard head. He's got that Marquardt head, but Hardy will test it. I have no idea who's going to win. I abstain.
All right, Scott, who you got?
I can't pick Greg Hardy. I won't allow myself to. So I'm going with Tuivasa. I'm going to go by knockout. And honestly, at least part of this is the fact that I just don't think I think that every single fight that Greg Hardy's in has potential for something new and interesting that displays his lack of fight IQ. And I think we're going to get one of those this time. There's something you're not going to be able to pick what it is. I'm not going to try, but he's going to go in there and something weird's going to happen. That it's like, why haven't you figured this out by now? You're a pro fighter now. And he's going to lose, and I'll be happy.
It's like he's gonna get in there and have to be told, like, you mean I can't dip my gloves in glue and broken glass? No one ever told me.
I thought I was allowed that plaster.
You sort of said I could.
My friend Antonio Margarito said I could do this.
Yeah.
Oh, what a reference! The plaster of Paris fight.
Yeah, man. That good old what's the guy's name? Castillo that did that.
Oh, no. Miguel. Sorry.
Yeah, before that in like the 80s.
Oh, I don't remember.
Yeah. Long story. I watched a documentary on it years ago. But anyway, so my who you got for Tuivasa versus Hardy. Of course, I want Greg Hardy to get slept. I still say Merson Tybura is the GOAT. He's the heavyweight GOAT after what he did to Greg Hardy. I stand by this. Tybura is the greatest heavyweight we've ever seen based on his performance last December. That being said, though, man, Greg Hardy, like it or not, greatly improves from a technique standpoint every single time out. He's still incredibly new to the sport. He has the top level coaching, and it's very clear the differences we see, like a true evolution before our eyes, despite how despicable of a human being he has presented himself to be to the police and everyone. Anyway, before I go off on that tangent, Tai Tuivasa is a guy who seems to be, that OSP style arrested development in the sport. We're like, he's essentially the exact same guy he was when he made his UFC debut with very little improvement, in my opinion. I don't think that's a good recipe. And we're talking about a guy who was incredibly hittable before, relies on that a little bit too much anyway. We've seen it be his downfall. Greg Hardy, I think, will exploit that, and I think he's going to get a finish, and I'm going to hate myself for it as well. But Greg Hardy is my pick to win that fight. All right, now
Boo this man. Boo.
I want to kick myself off my own show. Just terrible. Scott, you're filling in next week for me.
I'm out.
So, yeah. All right, fellas. So now let's move on to what is now the co-main event. And this one promises to be something special. Gilbert Burns versus Wonder Boy Stephen Thompson. Now, we know we've heard Colby Covington is next up for a crack at the welterweight belt to rematch Usman and potentially get his hands on UFC gold again. Depending on the results between these two on Saturday, do you think either Burns or Wonderboy might go ahead and steal that title shot from him?
The way that the Dana White and the UFC were talking about a potential rematch between Burns and Usman made me surprised about that, because I watched that fight, and yeah, he had Usman in a lick of trouble there, but I never thought, boy, I'd love to see this run back in 6 months. Like I'm on the Ben Duffy school of thought that unless there's some sort of contention or some real issue or controversy, don't run back a fight that just happened. Why? What? You're not going to get anything different. I don't want to take over my own leader for later, but do we really think that the main event is going to have a transformation between either fighter 6 months after the last fight? So I don't see the Burns-Usman fight playing out differently, and I don't think he's earned that now. So I hope not, but it depends on who wins this fight. I feel like this is a borderline title eliminator that shouldn't be like that. I'm in favor of, if the UFC wants to make 5-round co-main event, 5-round title eliminator fights like the Diaz-Edwards thing, this would be a fight for that. I would love to see this fight over 5 rounds if it gets there. Can Burns close the distance? Can he get Wonderboy down? Can he do anything with it? Because we know Wonderboy's never been submitted. Can Burns be the guy? Can Burns close the distance? Get in on the long-rangey guy? I'll put these two together. I'll have the 1-2 punch. The one, Wonderboy wins. He'll probably win a decision. He'll stay away because Burns has fallen in love. He is the grappler's dilemma, the power punching grappler's dilemma. He found his hands. He found his power. He's Johnny Hendricks now, in that he can legitimately knock you out. He had Kamaru Usman on roller skates, and that's something that we hadn't seen before. Colby Covington hit him with everything, the kitchen sink, the MAGA flagpole in the back, everything, and couldn't crack Usman's chin. But Burns had him hurt very, very impressively. So I'm afraid he might fall into that, oh my God, my hands are so good, I'm going to abandon the thing that got me to the dance. I think that's what's going to happen. And Stephen Thompson will play the matador like he did to Vicente Luque. So I think he's going to win a decision. I think it's going to frustrate fans, even though as a karate guy, I will be sitting there going, well, as I'm furiously typing after running it back, be going, that was beautiful. Like that's exactly how you have to fight a guy who's going to close his eyes and throw bombs at you. I see Wonderboy getting the decision. I see him getting a title shot, and I see him falling short for the championship when he fights Usman later, probably early next year. That's my all the predictions.
All right.
Isn't it?
Yeah, that was very thorough there, Jay. Scott, ball's in your court. Tell me, Burns and Thompson, who you got?
I'm going to take, honestly, I've been torn on this whole time, so I'm stalling for just a little bit longer, but I am going to take Thompson, honestly, for a lot of the reasons what Jay was talking about. I do kind of see this Matador, Luque type of fight developing there. I don't know if I think there will be more danger situations that Burns is capable of putting him in, because this is a fighter with a lot of skills in his prime, and he is very impressive, but I do think ultimately it's probably going to be one of these decision things here. But to really quickly too, I just want to point out the fact that I do think as far as the title picture, where this fight really sits, if Burns wins, I don't think he gets a title shot. I think there's a lot of reasons why they wouldn't go to him, because there's other options. Leon Edwards, they could decide they want to leap over Colby Covington if that's what they want to do. But I think Wonderboy, if he wins, yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons they like to do that. They like Wonderboy. It sure seems that way anyway. But when it comes down to it, whoever gets the title shot is whoever is ready when the UFC wants you to fight. And that's all that matters. That's why we have Cyril Gane against Derek Lewis instead of Francis Ngannou against almost anyone else, John Jones especially. It's about timing. So if Wonderboy is ready when they want to put Usman in for a title fight, then that's what it'll be. And if Usman isn't ready for that date, then they will probably make another interim belt, and it'll be Wonderboy against Leon Edwards or something like that. It'd be all Colby. Timing.
It'd be Colby.
But if Colby doesn't want to fight for X amount of money, which he's been, very, I don't want to say stubborn. He's been fighting for what he thinks he deserves. I'm not a Colby fan, but I at least respect that about him. The one thing I'll give him. But it's all about opportunity. If you're not there when they need you, you don't get the fight.
And if you're not willing to do it for cheap, that'll kick you out the door as well. So very good point on that one, Scott.
Can I pose a question that I would like Duffy to answer as he leads into his talk about this?
Absolutely.
So Duffy, UFC rankings matter when they want them to matter, and in this situation, Wonderboy's number 4, fighting number 2 Burns, number 3 obviously being Leon Edwards. If Thompson beats Burns and beats him convincingly, will he skip Leon Edwards in the title picture?
Yes.
It's okay.
It's become comical at this point. Like the 12 labors of Hercules that Leon Edwards has to perform in order. Like, seriously, I think he needs to go over to Thailand and beat Bank and No Money at the same time before they'll give him a UFC title shot. I think he needs to fight a shaved bear. It's just ridiculous at this point. I worry that Gilbert Burns watched Thompson's 2 fights versus Woodley and then watched Thompson's fight versus Pettis, and he's like, I'm going to do that. That looks a lot easier. And while it'll go down as Anthony Pettis' last great win, I think the rumors of the demise of Stephen Thompson's chin, reflexes, footwork are greatly exaggerated. Like, the Luque and Neal fights have convinced me that he's still got a lot left. I don't know if Burns is going to be able to duplicate a Pettis type performance. You guys already all talked about the Luque fight where he definitely did the Matador thing against Jeff Neal. He just completely tooled one of the best boxers in the division with numbing power. Like, Neal couldn't touch him. And I think Neal is a niftier boxer than Gilbert Burns is.
The thing I would say about Neal is just he was coming off of that I forget the exact medical situation, but he had
the really bad staph.
Yeah,
he had I forget exactly what it was. Yeah, it may have been that, but he was in a really bad way. It sounded like over the summer. So this was being his first fight back. I'm not surprised he didn't look all that great.
I love those guys. Texas forever, but somebody at Fortis opened up the mummy's tomb about a year ago. I just feel bad for him. It's been a rough year or so. If Gilbert Burns wins this, if on Sunday we're talking about, whether or not Gilbert Burns deserves to leapfrog anybody for a title shot, I think it's going to be because he sells out, for the takedown, and whether he gets it or not does enough to win rounds. I just don't know if he's going to do that. If he tries to win this on the feet, he's going to get tooled.
All right. Definitely what I did hear that. Very good stuff, Ben. So so obviously we got a special guest who just woke up and is still out of it. So I'll get my picks in before he realizes he's up and he's on air and he's ready to play. So I'm gonna have to side with Wonder Boy for a lot of the same reasons you gentlemen listed. The main thing that sticks out to me is that Burns, since he discovered that he has punching power, has almost no patience, and that's worked very well for him, just swarming people like he did against Tyron Woodley, just swarming somebody. The initial attacks against Kamaru Usman, getting in their face, putting a lot of pressure and landing heavy shots. That strategy has never worked well against Wonder Boy. We've referenced the Vicente Luque fight. Luque, another aggressive hard hitter. He got worked over. You look at the success that Tyron Woodley had, a ridiculous power puncher, especially at that time. He had to be extraordinarily patient to get the victories he did. Anthony Pettis had to take a world-class beating and just show the patience to get that one perfect shot in order to get his victory over Wonder Boy. And the even thing is, if Burns comes in there with a grappling-centric plan, I don't think that works very well either. Wonder Boy is notoriously one of the most difficult guys to take down. I don't think you're going to just go in there and say, hey, I'm going to use my jiu-jitsu this time, because that seems to be what everyone tries to do, and it doesn't ever work outside of the Matt Brown fight in his very early UFC tenure. So I think Wonder Boy kind of styles on Burns after like maybe the second round. I think we start like midway through the second. I think Wonderboy really starts pulling away with it. Perhaps a 5-rounder would make things a bit different. Like it might change the dynamic somewhat, and Burns maybe have more time to try to adjust and figure out what may work for him. But this is, I don't think this is going to be a very competitive fight. Wonderboy runs away with this in my eyes. All right, fellas. So now we've got our swing or miss right here. Dustin Poirier, swing or miss, is the betting favorite, should be the betting favorite in the rubber match with Conor.
Swing. He should be the favorite. Absolutely. I mean, he just won the last fight. He's the guy who's actually been winning fights lately. Easy. Yeah.
Yep.
Until probably 2 days ago or so, it was a pick'em or Conor was the favorite. Like, this is a recent development that the line has changed towards Poirier. I'm swinging too because it doesn't make sense. Because, again, I said this before, and I've said this about Khamzat Chimaev. You're not going to grow and develop as a fighter taking fights in a short span of time. You're just not going to be able to because you're not you're training for this one fighter. You're not training to develop your skills to get better. So the Chimaev we got, it's the Chimaev we're going to get along the way. Now, obviously, he's been going through some stuff, but the point remains that Conor versus Poirier 3 is taking place. You know, a few months, 6 months, I think, is the time of their last fight. I believe it was late January. So, you know, it's less than 6 months ago. We're not going to get different fighters. We're not going to get Conor McGregor, who's never checked a kick in his life because he's the one throwing kicks. Why would I need to check kicks because I'm the one putting them out there? Is not going to change that. We're not going to get a Conor who I think it was Felder who said on the broadcast of 257 that Conor has been approaching his most recent fights, for obvious reason, with a boxing-centric approach. And then, of course, he threw a spinning wheel kick right after Felder said that. But the point still does remain that Conor's hands have been more of what got to it. You have to go back to like the Diaz fight, which was 5 years ago. Can you believe that, by the way? They fought 5 years ago, the Diaz and Conor fights. Yeah, it feels like I remember them clearly, so I don't know. This doesn't look good from a betting situation, but it looks good for the savvy people who look at this line and go, "Oh my God, they really think Conor should be the favorite after all." So yeah, get in on that, swinging.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Ben. Go ahead.
I'll be interested to see what happens because we know what happens to the money line during a Conor McGregor fight week. I wonder, I mean, really, we should be swinging or missing on whether Poirier will be the betting favorite by the time they step into the cage.
That's a good question.
Let's think.
I do think he will be.
You think that Conor will be the favorite?
No. Well, actually, yeah. So I should say I think Poirier will be the favorite, but I think it's going to be narrowly because I think we're going to have enough savvy bettors that will keep it that way. Because it wasn't that long ago that we saw this. It's a different thing when you're projecting a fight a rematch of 5-6 years ago. I think there's a lot of recency here, and people, as much as they're going to be passionate Conor fans, it's your money, Yeah,
the thing is, it's Conor fans that run to the betting booth have a particular level of distance from reality. Like,
yes.
I mean, we're talking about the people who bet on McGregor to beat Floyd Mayweather in a boxing match, like that was a thing. Like, people really did that. They
I have family members who did that.
Yeah, like they went to work and they like worked hard and they punched the clock and they had to pay their bills and their mortgage and their kids' food and all this other stuff. And they said, you know what, I'm going to take some of that money that I've sacrificed increments of my life for. I'm going to bet it on Conor McGregor to beat Floyd Mayweather in a boxing match. So we're talking about a level of just complete lack of knowledge of how fights work to suggest that actually seeing a man get knocked out unconscious 6 months ago means anything when he's fighting that same person again. I'm just really amazed at the amount of people that are like, oh my God, Conor McGregor is really training mixed martial arts this time. This is a conversation that we're having when we're talking about two world-class mixed martial artists, is that one of them actually trained in the sport to compete in the sport. It's one of the dumber conversations you could ever possibly have, but that conversation is continually happening. I think it's appropriate that Poirier is the betting favorite, but I don't think that's going to last long because stupid people do stupid things. And I am, as of right now, as we're speaking, I'm still not decided who I think is going to win, but I've clearly decided that I'm not putting any money on this. So there's that. At least I got that going for me.
I think Conor will be the favorite again, and it isn't just because he was a 3-1 favorite in the rematch. By the way, he was, I think it was minus 290 or something like that. You get him at minus 3 and change if you played your cards the wrong way. Obviously, you want to get lower minus money, but I think when the Irish, remember, 257 happened in Abu Dhabi in Etihad Arena with about 2,000 VIP fans or whatever happened. This will be travel restrictions, I believe, from Ireland are lifted. So I believe that people from Ireland can come over to the T-Mobile Arena. When the Irish contingent gets to town and puts money down on Vegas books, I think we're probably looking at minus 135, minus 140 for Conor by the time we get close. That's my prediction. So if that's the case, get Dustin Poirier at plus money. Sorry, pushing my pick out there early.
All right, fellas. So let's move on to our actual fight picks. Well, son just smacked my headphones off my head a little bit there. All right, Scott, I'm going to start with you again. Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor, two men who have worn lightweight gold in the recent past for the third time. Who you got?
Dustin Poirier is the #1 lightweight on the planet in my eyes, and that is not a disrespect to Charles Oliveira, the UFC champion, but I do believe that he is still the best on the planet, and I think he'll prove that again this weekend, set up another fight between him and Oliveira. I think he's going to finish Conor McGregor. I don't know if it's going to be sub. I don't know if it's going to be a KO, TKO. I think he's going to finish him. I could see it going into round 3, though. I'm going to go with round 3. I'm going to say round 3 TKO. That's my pick.
Okay. All right. Strong pick there. Ben, who you got?
I'm with Scott on this one. I think McGregor will look better. You know, like he's absolutely, been training hard for this. At his heart, he does need the competition. He does care about being perceived as a great. He does not want to go down 2 fights to 1 to a guy that he completely embarrassed the first time they fought. I don't think it'll be enough. I picked this one wrong the first time out. Just thought, as improved as Poirier is, he's still hittable. He's still hittable early on. McGregor is a legendarily fast starter, and I picked this fight about as wrong as you can pick a fight. Not making that mistake again. I think Poirier wins. I think Scott's right. I think he probably does get a finish somewhere in the middle there, 3rd or 4th round. But it'll be a good fight, and McGregor will look better.
All right, another strong pick there, Jay. Who you got?
When I look at levels of competition and the people that each of these men have been fighting the past 5 years or so, you got one guy who has beaten Dan Hooker in a fight of the year, Max Holloway, Eddie Alvarez, Justin Gaethje, Anthony Pettis, champ, and Jim Miller, which was a closer fight than it was Jim Miller. I don't know if that was. I don't think he'd been treated for Lyme disease yet. With basically his lone blemish, aside from the Khabib fight, which everybody has, is the which Michael Johnson. We're going to get world beater Michael Johnson. We're going to get 95-second knockout Michael Johnson. Oh my God! So other than that, it's just we got that guy, and we got a guy in the same span of time, dating back to 2016. We got a guy that's beaten Donald Cerrone, who is Donald Cerrone of now. And that's it. He has a Khabib loss and the Poirier loss. The Eddie win is right on that cusp of 5 years ago. And then you go back to the Diaz fights. Are we really going to look at a majority decision win, which I scored a draw for Nate Diaz, as a win for Conor McGregor? It's just what we've seen from these guys has been just so. And of course, Conor had the boxing thing. But do we really want to take a boxing match where he lost and maybe won one round? I gave him the first round, I think. to his positive ledger. Just Conor hasn't done anything to make me think he's really here, back for real, taking it seriously. There was a narrative that has, to this day, is being painted that Dustin Poirier was in big trouble and he staged a comeback using leg kicks and a couple good strikes to come back after being hurt or something to knock out Conor McGregor. I rewatched the fight this morning when I was preparing my stat of the week. There was no such time that Dustin Poirier was rocked, was hurt, was anything besides punched in the face, which happens to Dustin Poirier. If you watched his fights, you've seen that's a big deal. Whereas there were multiple times in the fight that Poirier staggered Conor. And you know that because Poirier would point at him and go, and he there was a check right hook that he landed, and he went, ah, and Conor had to shake it out for a second. I don't think he expected that power. I don't think he was ready for the fight that Poirier brought to him. But it's been 6 months. Can you really shore up your game? The only major difference I can see in this fight is if Conor tries to not check leg kicks, but counter the leg kicks, because Poirier threw a few of them naked with an overhand right or something, a check right hook when Poirier is going for the leg kick. That's what maybe you could come and see that he brings to the table, is a counter to the inevitable leg kick. But something Poirier did at the early stage of the round in shooting for a takedown and then later in landing it, he didn't do anything with it besides keep McGregor guessing. And then he pump faked a few times to get Conor to drop down and sprawl. That was brilliant. That was exactly what he needed to throw Conor out of his game. And I see this happening again. I see this same situation going on basically like it did before. They may be fewer leg kicks, but people seem to forget they were strike for strike up headshots. It's documented. You can look it up. I believe Conor had the edge in head strikes by like 4 punches or something like that. And Dustin Poirier was competitive through the whole match until he knocked him out. So this is Poirier's fight to lose. I think this is the moment. This is the thing the UFC is kind of afraid of, but also should be excited for, because they'll have Dustin Poirier, a legitimate star who's avenged his losses with 2 stoppage wins. I think Poirier is going to submit Conor. He'll get that. He'll get the revenge. He'll be a superstar, and the UFC can still have Conor versus Nate 3. Losing streaks, someone's got to win. So they'll actually come out on top if Conor loses, and I think that's what's going to happen here.
Definitely strong picks all around for Dustin Poirier. I'm gonna make it unanimous. I think Dustin Poirier gets the victory here, but I'm still not totally convinced. Like, I'm not just so sure that is the right outcome, because even though we just saw McGregor get knocked out by Poirier in very, very recent memory, their styles still favor McGregor. And while we can say that Dustin wasn't really rocked for those initial shots that Conor landed, I mean,
he still ate them.
He still landed some pretty big shots on him. And I think Poirier admitted that he did get stung a little bit by those. What in the world is my son talking about? So I have to just let him off my lap, and hopefully he doesn't destroy the house while we're wrapping things up here on the show. The thing is that the X factor for me is that Conor has been obsessed with past losses, like he did against Nate Diaz, and in a very short amount of time, he dedicated himself so thoroughly to avenging that loss. And the type of fighter we saw the next time was totally different. I don't know if he has that in him this time, because clearly his motivations are a lot different now. He's sitting on more money than ever. He's nearing what should be his athletic prime if he hasn't already passed it. So maybe that doesn't work, but I think it's at least enough to give some pause and stop me from running to the betting booth with a ticket that says Dustin Poirier with a big smile on my face. That being said, I still think Poirier gets it done. I think he's more motivated. He's actually been training mixed martial arts. He's someone who continually just keeps getting better and better. He's durable as all hell. He's also not the one on Twitter begging to avoid takedowns for for this fight. He's also the one who is not buying into the psychological warfare that Conor likes to throw out there, and there was a big reason why he won their first fight. So I think the mature, the more consistent, and the more the more unbothered Dustin Poirier gets it done, probably by third or fourth round finish. So that, I think, sums up my picks for the fight. But one last question before we shut things down. Do you think this fight is the reason why Charles Oliveira has not been booked for his first title defense yet?
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, why would you bother booking Charles Oliveira against anybody else at this point? This is the fight. And I obviously said where I feel about Poirier being the number one guy. And I think that's what Oliveira would want. And realistically, if Conor wins, he gets to fight Conor and he gets a bag. So that's great too. So obviously this is definitely the way to go. It's the only way to go. What are they going to do? Put Gaethje in there? I mean, he's coming off a loss and he hasn't fought.
All right, good points there. So I think that will do it for this edition of Unleashed.
You want me to give you a crazy? Well, I'll give you a crazy send-off stat.
Okay.
Both these boys are just 32 years old. That's it.
Ooh. So
they're just 32.
32 looks a lot different on them. That's for sure. That is, wow. That is, proper 12 does not help you age well. That's for sure. All right. Well, big thanks to Scott for joining the panel this week. Can't wait to have you back on. You can check out his work on the New York Post, the MMA articles written by this man. So go ahead and check that out. Jay and Ben, you can find them on Sherlock.com, and myself, check out The Body Lock and MMA On Point for my work. There will be a live stream for the fights this weekend on The Body Lock. I unlikely to join the fight live stream because y'all see the kids and all the chaos associated with that, but I will be doing the post-fight show. So go ahead and check that out. So remember to like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend, tell that friend to tell 10 more friends. So stay beautiful, stay positive. I didn't think of a catchphrase to insert there. So stay sexy. I'll see you next week. Peace.